The title of my speech is Toxic Florida, and it's relating to the awful case of red tide that we're dealing with this year and how it relates to the toxic green algae flowing from Lake Okeechobee. The toxicity of the water, the air, and the state of the economy are becoming increasingly hazardous, and I would also like to voice my opinion and my thoughts on solutions to this problem. As we know here in South Florida, red tide is a naturally occurring phenomenon, yet has several hazards towards people, animals, and the economy. Red tide is a common name for an algal bloom caused by dinoflagellates and other phytoplankton. The production of brevetoxins and ichthyotoxins are harmful to exposed marine and aquatic plant life. These toxins are also harmful to humans when exposed to intoxicated air, direct contact with intoxicated water, or when ingested, like by eating intoxicated shellfish or other seafood we find down here in our waters. Growth of the toxins depends on wind, temperature, salinity, and nutrients. And one of the main causes for the incredible case of red tide that we're dealing with this year is the nutrients being fed from the toxic green algae flowing from Lake Okeechobee. The green algae dies, in turn feeding the bacteria of the red tide, creating more nutrients for the deadly crimson water. Lake Okeechobee is filled with toxic green algae and continues to flow and pollute our coastlines. Originally, for over 6,000 years, Lake Okeechobee drained south, providing necessary water for wildlife in the southern parts of the Everglades, until the 1928 Okeechobee hurricane. The Herbert Hoover Dike was built after the hurricane in order to drain excess water to each of Florida's coasts. The dike in turn dried up the swampland south of the lake, which was later turned into farmland for sugarcane fields. With cattle fields to the north of the dike and sugarcane fields south of it, phosphorus from fertilizer flows freely into the lake, creating the toxicity of the algae. The St. Lucie River carries the toxic water to the east coast, flowing into the Atlantic Ocean, and the Caloosahatchee River carries the toxic water to the west coast, flowing into the bay. The resulting destruction from the toxic water kills plant and animal life, as well as makes the coastlines nearly uninhabitable for humans. The accumulated dead fish completely kills our commercial fishing industry, which also affects restaurant seafood availability, exportation of our fresh fish, and deters tourists. Lower tourism rates will kill Florida's economy. People are not going out to eat in restaurants, staying in hotels, purchasing gasoline or other goods, and water recreation industry will decline. With nearly half of Florida's coastline's population of snowbirds being deterred, Florida's economy could crumble. A solution, however, is possible. Red tide will eventually pass, as it does every year. We need to address Lake Okeechobee. Land previously used for sugarcane fields needs to be purchased and reconnected to the lake in order to create proper drainage south to the Everglades. Open land would reoxygenate the toxic water. Giving the lake more drainage options would also relieve the coastlines of the excess nutrition for the red tide, alleviating the increased hazards from these aquatic bacteria. In conclusion, our beautiful state of Florida and its incredible tourism attraction is at risk of serious downfall due to toxicity of our lakes and coasts. The Herbert Hoover Dike has created improper damage and drainage of the toxic green algae from Lake Okeechobee into the St. Lucie and Caloosahatchee rivers, and the poisonous water continues to flow to both coasts. The green algae dies, providing nutrients for the common red tide, increasing its toxicity. While red tide is always harmful, this excess nutrition is creating a more powerful and extensive case, which is affecting our most viable industry, tourism. If the land south of the dike is not purchased, allowing the lake to flow properly, the economy of the Sunshine State could completely fall.